Good afternoon, and welcome to today's webinar, What is Secure SD WAN? My name is Tina Plant, and I'm the Marketing Manager at Ecessa. For today's session, everyone is placed in mute mode. We welcome your questions and comments via the chat feature, which you can access from your control panel. Today's session is being recorded, and we'll send you the recording link in a follow-up email. Our presenters for today's webinar are Mike Siegler, CEO of Ecessa Corporation, and Rick Behrens, Systems Architect. Rick Behrens has a passion for understanding the intricacies of complex enterprise networks. He helps partners and customers develop solutions that solve existing needs and prepare networks for growth. His degree in computer networking from Dunwoody College of Technology and more than a decade with Ecessa Corporation have made Rick an expert in network design, configuration, and troubleshooting. In his current role as Systems Architect at Ecessa, he ensures successful SD-WAN deployments for clients worldwide. Rick has helped many Fortune 1000 companies achieve their goals of evolving their infrastructure to anticipate tomorrow's demands and realize the benefits of the WAN of the future. Mike Siegler has a Bachelor of Arts in Mathematics, a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering, and a Master of Science in the Management of Technology. He has worked in engineering and technology development for the last 15 years at firms such as Digi International, Seagate Technology, Medtronic, General Electric, and United Technologies. Currently, Mike is CEO at Ecessa Corporation, improving wide area network performance for businesses of all sizes. Let's begin.
All right, well, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar. As always, we appreciate your feedback live or after. So as Tina indicated, please use that chat feature and we'll try to address questions in real time, make it more relevant for everyone. And I want to thank Rick Behrens for being here today so that we can work together to kind of tag team on this new topic. So what is our agenda for today? We're going to make this straight and to the point for you. First and foremost, we're going to talk about Secure SD WAN and what do we, Ecessa, achieve by doing this. We're going to talk about the all-in-one solution that we now have available to our customers and partners. We're going to talk about some best practices around deployments, both straight-up SD-WAN deployments as well as best practice for security and next-gen firewall deployments. And we're going to talk about the features that we've recently developed and released, which are available to all of our existing customers today. And we're going to talk about how you can go about next steps of figuring out if your current solution is adequate for these new features. We can do a tune-up opportunity. We can engage Rick and have a review of your networks, etc. So lots of exciting follow-ups after the fact. So let's go ahead and get started. So what is Secure SD-WAN, right? As we all know, SD-WAN is all about making sure that you've got security both at the edge and at the core, and the technology allows you to essentially create your own private networks. So not having to rely on MPLS or expensive private layer 2 networks, but being able to create that security from either your site to the internet or from site to site across your network. But it also means that you want to be able to provide more features and more security for everything that you need at the edge, at the network edge. So what we have today is Ecessa's products are a full-blown router. They are now a next-gen layer 7 firewall, and they are the tried and true SD-WAN solution that we've been providing for over 18 years. And we are able to bundle all of those features together in one software stack on one physical or virtual appliance at the network edge or at the headquarters DC Colo head unit. What are the benefits of that? Well, as we've been listening to customers over many years, it's all about cost. It's about I don't want to pay for multiple different solutions that stack on top of one another. I want everything in one box. It's also how do I make it easier to manage? I want to be able to call on one company to help me with all of these features. I don't want to have 3 or 4 different resources I have to go to. And the most important piece in the topic of today's webinar is we're increasing security. Why? Because now the first thing and the last thing that your data sees before it leaves the network is an Ecessa product with a full-blown layer 7 firewall that can lock down ports, can manage an ACL, and make sure that all of those rules are working properly for you. So as we move forward, we'll be talking more and more about how do we integrate all of these features into one solution, right? As most of us know, we have a virtual capability moving forward of adding everything together, a service chaining, if you will, where the old days of needing independent pieces of equipment for each independent feature is rapidly fading away. So where we have seen a lot of traction for our solutions in the marketplace and requests from customers is help me consolidate at the edge. I want that universal CPE, and we are building that one block at a time. So Ecessa has been built on a basic router platform over 18 years ago, and we started off with basic aggregation, channel bonding, failover, and that is where we have really cut our teeth, is on how to do that very, very well. We also have our quality of service engine, which allows you to prioritize traffic, throttle traffic, and manage your bandwidth in a more optimum way. We've also added diagnostics reporting and troubleshooting capabilities with everything including SNMP and NetFlow, remote syslog server capabilities, trace logging, et cetera, which people use all the time with our tech support teams to troubleshoot their networks. Now, recently, we've added this new Layer 7 firewall capability, but that is adding to our existing VPN engines and encrypted tunnel capabilities, which all of you know us from an SD-WAN perspective. So the benefit of these new developments and developments moving forward is that we will continue to add features and capabilities into the single software stack, making it less expensive for you, easier to manage, and more consolidated in terms of both space and resources. So what about this Layer 7 firewall that Ecessa is coming out with, and where does it fit, right? Because we're not a traditional security company. When you go and look at Gartner's Magic Quadrant or you Google security, Ecessa isn't at the top of that list, right? So we've got some options, right? We've got 3 different options that we've actually built out in a white paper that we can send as a follow-up as well for this webinar. But first and foremost, for those more simplistic deployments where you need a single box to solve all of these problems together, you can deploy Ecessa as a standalone solution, and that is our option number 1. And as what we have is that Layer 7 firewall and the SD-WAN capability that you've come to know and love, and we can integrate into any environment, as we'll talk about in terms of the deployment. Now, the additional options that people ask for are, hey, I like my firewall. I've got an existing firewall. I have a managed firewall, right? Don't touch my firewall. We've heard that as well. So the options there are to put Ecessa over the top or in line with your existing infrastructure to provide that resiliency, that failover, that load balancing capability, also that integration of all the bandwidth. So keep your firewall if you want to keep your firewall. And then on a more dispersed type of architecture where we have multiple sites all coming back to a head-end unit, we've had feedback that, hey, we don't want to backhaul all of that internet traffic from that remote location or that edge location to a headquarters Palo Alto or Checkpoint, enterprise level firewall. So in this case, you can use more a distributed architecture where you would actually have keeping your existing enterprise level firewall and then having the Ecessa product at the edge be able to offload that basic internet traffic with that Layer 7 firewall capability, with those web rule capabilities, and be able to offload that internet traffic at the edge, saving you that bandwidth back to your head end. So this is what we see a lot of our larger multi-site customers migrating to over time, and we find that this is that cost savings, bandwidth optimization, and being able to, again, consolidate the number of vendors and solutions that are deployed. Now, deployments are not new to us, and Rick and I have gone through many, many together, and Rick many more than me. And what we've done over the years is built a tried and true process, right? We believe in customer satisfaction and making sure that deployments do not fail. And how we do that is following a multi-step process. And so I'll have Rick go through and talk a little bit about his lessons learned over the years and how we avoid disasters on SD-WAN deployments. And he'll be talking about the new Layer 7 firewall and how we're going to deploy that as well. So Rick?
Yeah, thank you. So kind of as the slide says at the top, we believe in a guaranteed deployment process, and guaranteed is a pretty bold statement, but we believe in it because we've been doing this for so many years and we've dedicated so much time and effort to the process. and the process really lends itself to successful deployments no matter what the complexities of the individual environments. So it starts with stage one where we're doing, where we're doing network discovery, having meetings with the customer and the partner to learn more about the network so that we understand the environment we're going into. During that time, there's a lot of back and forth, there's a lot of network design work that's done, and it's in an effort to get to a spot where everybody's comfortable with the design. There are no question marks, there are no surprises when we go to actually install the devices in the network. That gets us to the end of stage one where the devices are actually in the network in normally a pass-through mode. During stage two, we observe traffic that's passing through the environment, watch for things that we have discussed, watch for things that we have not discussed, to make sure that we are accounting for all the different traffic types and giving them the proper priority and the proper behavior across the network. Which then leads us to step three after some time in the network and those features being turned on, those efforts being put in place to observe and review and look for opportunities to optimize and fine-tune the solution. So those of you that are partners with us or maybe end users that have been with us for a while and might be familiar with this process or have gone through this process, we take a lot of pride in it, and we believe it's one of the reasons we can claim that we guarantee our deployment process, and as Mike said, we do not believe in letting a deployment fail. So with that in mind, when we released our new Layer 7 functionalities, we took a very similar approach to setting up some best practices for how to deploy our firewall. For any of you that have worked with the Layer 7 firewall that included IPS IDs functionalities, it is not usually simply a checkbox you check and now everything is protected and nothing is impacted negatively. Because of the large threat signatures that are out there, there are opportunities or circumstances where just blindly turning on the IPS IDs functionality can cause legitimate traffic to be blocked or impacted negatively. So we believe in the same kind of tiered approach or staged approach to get you to a place where you can safely turn on the features without impacting your production traffic. So starting with a stage one where you would maybe enable intrusion detection, which is just observing and reporting on threats that are seen on the network. You choose the interfaces here that you would select or want to be used in the monitoring. And then once that is enabled, it will start reporting in the logs, which will tell you what individual rules are being hit. This slide here indicates the sources that we use. So we use a publicly maintained source of threats out there called emerging threats. It's maintained constantly by a public community, so that's the source that we pull down, but we do allow you to choose your individual sources if you have a different preference. But as you enable these different sources and the different categories that you would like to watch, those rules will start showing up in your logs as far as the rules that are enabled, which is this slide here. And then the following slide will show kind of what's being hit, right? So you'd get a record in your logs of the different threats that it's observed, but also you can look, more importantly, for traffic that looks like it might be legit. Looking for specific local IP addresses on your LAN that are your servers, perhaps, and making sure that the traffic that is being called out or alerted on, whether it's actually a threat or whether it's legit and it's just being caught by a potential threat signature.
Okay.
Stage two takes us into, now that we have observed those things, we can go ahead and write some rules to account for that behavior. So in the categories that are available, I believe there's almost 30 different categories. Mm-hmm. There can be up to 10,000 rules or more in some of these categories because of the number of threat signatures. So you might be in a situation where you don't want to enable every single rule in a category, and we give you those options here with our custom rules option where you can simply enable certain rules within a category. Or as I was mentioning before, when you're watching the logs, you might see things that are legit traffic that you want to exclude from a category while you will eventually enable the entire rest of the category. And that's where you can get into these signature actions on the next slide here, which will show you kind of how to exclude a rule just by its signature ID. And the signature ID would be listed in the log, so it makes it very easy to find.
Right, and as Rick has been articulating this process, this is something that we guide you through. So you are there with us each step of the way. We don't let you fumble around with it on your own if that's not something you want to do. We all know the pitfalls and perils of production network environments, and so.
Absolutely, no, that's kind of the nature of where the process came from, even our deployment process, is that we didn't want people to be in a position where they had to try to navigate the solution by themselves and cause problems for themselves, and also makes more work for us as well. So these processes are put in place to help our customers succeed, and we're there to help them throughout each step of the process.
Okay.
Stage 3 is where you can go back and basically, now that you've identified all the categories and the rules that you want to include or exclude, you can go back and change your intrusion detection to now be intrusion prevention, and now it will start blocking and dropping the rules that you have in place, all the threat signatures that are present in your rule sets. So you would select the appropriate community categories, which are again one of the 30 categories that I described. You would set those to be block or drop. You can use the update schedule to keep your source list current. It will update on a schedule that you define to go out and check the community source to see if there's any changes and pull those changes down into your environment. And then we have added a layer 7 capability in regards to being able to put in web rules. So in addition to just known threats, signatures, things that the community has seen out there as far as different vectors of attack, you can also put in web rules to do to some of your own content filtering, so to adhere to company policy about social media usage or streaming services, any number of things you want to categorize. You simply have to put in the names of the sites, and it will add both DNS and TLS rules on the back end to block traffic going to those destinations. So again, like a lot of things our development team does, we try to make these feature sets as easy to use, even though they are complex and complicated features in some cases, but our development team does a good job of laying it out so that it's easy for most people to understand, and you've always got our guidance as well in setting up those features.
Yeah, and again, this is years of voice of customer feedback from you and our other partners who say, hey, this is what we're looking for. Our customers are looking for this extra capability. So we're very, very proud to have released that recently. And like I said, building on that tried and true deployment process that Rick was articulating, we want to make sure that we are there, we are your trusted advisors, and we're guiding you through that process. There's nothing more important today than security. I don't need to say that more than 3 times fast. It is absolutely critical, and this advancement in this solution gives you that extra confidence that not only are you locked down at the network edge, but you're also guaranteeing that encrypted traffic across the internet as well. So next steps, we want to make sure that you understand that Ecessa is here to help you both with security and with SD-WAN. We're not just touting one thing, we are taking on both, and we will continue to refine this feature set, add more capabilities, get your feedback on it. We appreciate all of your help. And we want to make sure that we give you the guided approach that you need to be confident in making sure that those deployments are successful and that we don't miss threats and we don't block things that we don't need to. So we're there to help you each step of the way. And moving forward, if you're an existing customer and you're wondering if this feature is available to you and what you need to upgrade, you have options. You can, if your product is up to date today, you can download our latest version of software, our beta 11.1 platform, and that feature is enabled. If you need to upgrade your device for more capabilities, you can contact sales at Ecessa or info at Ecessa to find out what that looks like. We want to make sure that those people who are in the family stay in the family and that we take good care of you. So please give us your feedback. I'll check here for some questions on the chat. First is asking about additional cost. Yes, so this new Layer 7 feature is available to all existing Ecessa customers with an active SLA. So there is no additional charges for this feature. This is something that is a must-have in our industry, and we are offering it at no additional cost. And another question is, what version of code? Yes, so it is going to be our beta 11.1 software that's available now, and that is our typical release process. Is whenever we release something brand new like this, it is officially called a beta, even though it has gone through all of our internal testing. We've done third-party testing. We're running this software in our own corporate environment, and it has gone through all of our quality assurance. We still call it a beta because we don't know what might be in there, and we want to make sure that people know that that they're signing up for that beta. But what we typically do is 3 to 6 months after that beta has been out and live and we've gotten feedback, we convert that to our recommended. So if you are a firm that shies away from betas, you can help us to move that to recommended with your feedback. Okay. And yes, that firmware is available now. Let's see, DPI, so deep packet inspection is a question. So to answer that question, it depends. So when it comes to the layer 7 capability, yes, you have that deep packet inspection happening. That's how these threat rules are detected. And for other DPI, features more advanced, those will be coming along on the roadmap as well. So other questions? All right. Well, once again, we thank you very much for participating in the webinar. We appreciate your feedback, and we'll be recording this and sending it out so you have it as a reference in the future. Thank you.